Take me to the sea, wash away my worries, let my soul be free. Take me to the ocean, take me to the sea, wash away my worries, let my soul be free.
Hello world, I'm Max. Back in IRL, I go by Curtis. Welcome to another episode of the State Copy Podcast. As always, I'll remind you to review episode 0 and its appended segments for terms, conditions, and disclosures applicable to the entirety of this content. Thank you. Well, hey everybody, good morning. It's been a couple weeks since my last broadcast. I thought when I started doing this that I'd try and keep up some sort of regular cadence. I want to have some discipline around just life in general and building a practice around this thing I'm doing. But I don't want to just talk for the sake of talking. When I do these, I want to speak because I have something to say. And for the last couple weeks, I've mostly just been heads down, studying as I always do, all things, and spending a lot of time on AI. There's just so much cool shit happening every day in this space. I've been experimenting with all the different models, learning how to train them, and I want to get them talking to each other. And I'm just watching the open source AI community just explode exponentially into everything that can happen with this thing. It's just so damn cool. So I've been just really focused on that work lately. And when I wake up in the morning, I think, who do I have something to say today? And, there's been a couple times, sometimes I'll make one of these things and I'll just think, there's not really any reason to share that, or it doesn't really convey what I want to say. And so I just file it away. And I can use that later in AGI development work I'm doing. So, to all of my 58 subscribers, I don't expect any kind of particular cadence to these. I don't want to find myself in this. One of the reasons I did that, at the time, I didn't know why I wanted to do this. I just knew that I love podcasts. I love that we live in this time where suddenly everybody can talk. And I've gotten so much out of it. I've just listening to all the people that do this has so enriched my life that I really found myself wanting to give back somehow or participate in some way. So I put my best foot forward, and I got myself pretty well set up to do it. But I don't. A thing I've learned. There's this expression from our past, know thyself. I think it was written on the entryway to Plato's or Aristotle's Center of Learning. I forget what that was called. I find myself deeply committed to that these days. Just studying carefully what I am and what this universe is just really cool. Like, it's the most interesting thing I can think of to do with my time. And as I do that, it's been sort of a journey. And there's been times where I've been just so enthusiastic about all the little breadcrumbs that I'm putting together for myself and how I kind of settle into an understanding of what all of this shit is. And I am struck by the notion that at first, after I felt like I kind of had figured things out for myself, that I wanted to establish a way to communicate that. I think part of me figuring it out was doing this sort of very public, voluntary, nobody asked me for it, experiment in honesty, and just trying to be as authentically me, sort of fearlessly, through this. And I found the whole thing very cathartic at times, helpful for just figuring out, well, like I said, what I am, what this universe is. But it's like the farther I dig into this whole thing, I think the dysfunction of humanity, our endless bickering match with each other over all things, is actually a feature, not a bug, of what we are. I think that if there are times where we just sort of, and I suspect this is true, we sort of snap into consensus and we get to function as just sort of a conscious hive mind of that's sane and likes existing and understands itself very well. I think that entity quickly decides not to release that and re-embrace the disharmony of sort of splintering itself into a lot of a smaller cognitive agency and bickering. It really is how this thing learns and grows, I think. And so while at first I felt this, well, I really do feel this, the full weight of this time we live in, the fourth turning of, again, go read Fourth Turning, read Ray Dalio's work, in studying how, as I was trying to look at macro and try and fucking make sense of that wild complexity, feel this, oh shit, this pressure, that like, I hope it all works out. But when I look through history, like hundreds and thousands of years into our history, and I try and pay attention to what everybody says, and not just the scholarly, not just the archaeologists, but looking into the theistic paths and the classics, it seems evident that this always works out. we right when we're on the cusp of our dysfunction, I think that creates a pressure in us where we just kind of snap into a really cool, harmonious understanding of ourselves as a collection. And so I don't worry about it as much anymore. And I don't feel this pressure. And I feel like there's so many people that are so much more charismatic and eloquent in how they speak, who can kind of wrangle everybody together and say, stop your bickering. We're all the same thing. And I think they just do a really good job of that. And I don't feel like I need to, and I, in knowing Thyself, I don't feel like that's me. I don't have any interest in really growing this channel. And, like a cool thing about me as I've sort of really, and I don't think I'm particularly special. I'm riding around in me. So it's what I know. A curious aspect of how everyone in my life has shaped me is that I'm sort of never ending. I have this never ending curiosity and sort of urge to go figure out really interesting stuff I see happening that other humans are doing around me. So I've kind of mentioned this before. Like when I see something magical, like the first time I saw Pong when I was probably 4 years old or 5 years old, holy shit. This guy is controlling the television. Magic. You know, and like from the time I was really a kid and seeing Super Mario move around, I had to know how that worked. And airplanes, you know, I went to school to be an airplane mechanic right out of high school, and I got my pilot's license, and just because it looks so magic, you know, these incredible machines defying gravity. I needed to understand sort of granularly, like how, you know, how a wing works and all of it. But as with all things with me, as soon as I do all the hard work of the foundational understanding, and I think that is actually one of the hardest parts of grokking something is the foundational work, where you just like you study how it's like the biggest barrier for entry is opening your mind to the possibility that you can understand something, and then doing the hours and hours of, okay, this is how this fits with this piece and this fits with this piece. And then right as soon as the path to mastery opens up and I can see where I would need to go to really be like master something, just abandon it. I'm like, okay, cool. I got that one figured out. Time to find the next mystery. This means I'm largely a fool in most communities that I walk into. It's like I understand enough to kind of, but when I look into history, I think what this was called was like a polymath. This is poly meaning many and math meaning learnings, I think. I really love trying to go look at all of it and just be like the jack of all trades. Love that. But it means if you've listened to, like I said, 58 subscribers, the 8 of you that actually tune into future episodes that I make, I don't claim to be very masterful in most of the things that I study. And this, like when I'm bumbling into like physics, and what I was really trying to do is reconcile how the machine code works for things like for our shared state. So part of me figuring out this universe was I wanted to understand very granularly how like the observer effect and a quark works. And I don't claim that I'm very, again, but I think I have a framework for kind of figuring out how you could define that in code. And so, yeah, I don't really, because I feel like it's kind of disrespectful to these masters that are teaching me. Bumble my way in, pretend like my opinion is in any way useful. Where I think it's not a waste of time, this thing I do, the studying kind of everything, is it's very useful for fitting things together and seeing sort of like a zoomed out view of how it all fits. And that has been extremely useful. And I really think that my silly Hitchhiker's Guide supplement, if there's such a thing as divine inspiration, if there's such a thing as just sort of tuning your mind to go with the flow and let the greater forces of this universe kind of drive, the 2 weeks or so that I put that together, I think that was it. And I really think that it was meant to be, like in my last ep, I think it was, I talked about an open source manual for spirituality, greater connection to understanding self, the universe, your place in it, what this is all for, the unquantifiable value of all the other humans, even the ones you don't like, because they, without them, we're cardboard. We're really, without that, without somebody who takes an opposition to how you think about everything, like if we all just agreed, we would be so uninteresting and there would be no evolution possible. So I don't really, like, I find myself, as that greater understanding settles in me, I don't really think it's my place or to try and I don't know. Like at first I thought that was a very useful thing to do, is to propagate that understanding. Rally folks around the idea of just kind of caring about each other, even when you disagree. It's just, I wish I could give that to everybody. It's so awesome. But I really think that this whole thing works off our disagreement and our very unique perceptions. And like my true and truth, the cylinder dangling in the room, between us and our unique perspectives on it. If we were all looking at the thing from the same place, we'd be nothing. So all of the people that see something like this and think, that fool has lost his mind. He's full of shit. It's fine. It's cool. Like, I don't get to exist without you telling me it's stupid. So I don't know. I find myself now mostly just wanting to sit back and watch it. It's a beautiful machine. It's awesome. So yeah, I'm, if you've come this far on your journey with me, if you listen to any of my content and you enjoy it, cool. That makes me happy. I plan to just do this forever, but I don't want to just talk for the sake of talking. I don't want to feel pressure to come up here and, get on my podium of my very small podium and prattle on about shit that I haven't really figured out great yet. I have no ambition to grow this into some sort of profit machine or anything like that. It's so cool that we can do this. I really want, I was talking to my buddies, I'll read this. I was talking to my buddies the other day on the subject of so Twitter's had hosted presidential candidate, what is his name, from Florida, Ron DeSantis, announcing his candidacy. And, of course, CNN, Fox, MSNBC, New York Times, New York Post, Wall Street Journal, all of them are technical difficulties. Elon's falling right on his face. That's just such bullshit. Times they are a-changing. When you realize CNN and Fox and all these people are just another YouTube channel. I mean, they don't use YouTube or whatever, but it's the same damn thing, you guys. They are dinosaurs. Back in a world where it was impossible to do this, we had to rely on these arbiters of truth. It's such bullshit. Now somebody can just get on here Say what they really feel from their heart, and you can be the judge. And there's no commercial, fucking corporate. Nobody's going to turn this off because I say something that doesn't sell a widget properly. And that's kind of beautiful. I love it. And I think that there's a community of humanity that the boomers, most of my generation, Gen X, are still trapped in this idea that those things still matter. They don't. I mean, it's a signal that's so much less true than something like this. I mean, granted, tons of this is clearly selling something, but it's just, there's a beauty to it because there's just like one person can have an idea and share it, and it's uniquely theirs, and that's awesome to me, I think. And I just think the winds of change are here, and in 10 more years it's going to be like Fox, CNN, who, it's going to be a note, just a footnote in our history. But right now, there's still this powerful not recognition, just a shared acceptance that those things are still somehow necessary to be arbiters of truth. And I see this all the time with my friend B, who I'm calling Mr. Big per request, as I read from my Discord channel. We don't need that anymore. You don't have to. You can just listen to people talk and then decide whether what they have to say has any validity to it for yourself. There used to be 3 TV studios: ABC, NBC, and CBS. Even while I was growing up, in the early 80s, that was just the truth. So what we could all think was very tight. And now it's a beautiful, chaotic world, and we're all struggling to adapt. But we will, and it'll be fine. And it's awesome. Okay, I do want to read a little bit of this, and then I'll just probably wrap up for the day, just because there's some fun thoughts I had in here, I think. My buddies were talking about hangovers. I haven't had a hangover in a year and a half, going on 2 years. It's awesome. But let's see. One of my buddies was complaining about a hangover, and yeah, Dr. Awesome. And Mr. Big says, they're not real hangovers. We live in a simulation. Just buy the No Hangover DLC. They think my simulation ideas are a bit ridiculous. That's fine. Dr. Awesome says that the No Hangover DLC is lisinopril something. I don't know. I guess it makes hangovers easier. It's not good enough. I've been leaning into partying way harder. And Mr. Big says, I don't understand not looking where you're walking. I need to buy that DLC for some people. And then, of course, they baited me. So I piped in, what is real? A human is hard-coded with 5 senses it uses to interpret what's happening around it. True. Then it bounces off other like agents, other humans, with the same sensory gear to validate the shit it observes in the shared state. The human builds a model that gives it a sane, rational interpretation of everything happening around it so as to survive and thrive in an evolutionary system. Of course, shit feels super real to it. Sweat smile. There's a reason reality feels so real. You got 5 senses. They're hard-coded into you. And all that stuff you did from the moment you popped into existence was just observing other like agents with the same 5 senses and building up understanding of layer upon layer of memories of observed truths and stuff that you accepted to build a model that helped you make sense of all this. And Mr. Big says to that, LOL, if that were true, there would be many different versions of shit. And I said, how do you figure, Joy Emoticon? It all has to reconcile. If you can't reconcile, I think that looks a bit like schizophrenia. Real is just what we all agree real is. Simulation theory, in my view, is just humanity finally evolving to a degree necessary that it can understand at extreme granularity what it and the universe it exists in are and how to replicate it. When there's no magic left because we understand exactly what we are. I think some people find the idea of quote unquote simulation to be entirely like dystopian. You know, like the Matrix. Like one day, if you take the red pill and you get out, it's all going to be a hellscape outside. There is no outside. You don't. I think if you were able to open the door to the simulation and actually speak to the simulation that spawned you, you just find another simulation, and that's cool. I think at the bottom of all of this, if you could get all the way to the bottom of the original nesting doll, I think you just get something deciding to be a something from nothing forever. That's kind of a beautiful idea, I think. And certainly I want to be a part of that, not the nothing, you know? So I don't find it very dystopian. I find it to be beautiful. And then I responded to myself on the whole reconciling so as to avoid schizophrenia. The shared state is persistent. I don't think there are a bunch of forking potentials. That's not to say like the many worlds theory is totally bonkers, but I don't think it forks from each agent's decisions. Like if I decide to take a left instead of a right one day to go home from some errand, I don't think I spawn a new universe. That just seems terribly inefficient. You know, like that. How'd I say it? That would be a mess. Raffle emoji. I think it's a nesting doll of spawned simulations. And Mr. Big says, or, you know, just a bunch of compute guys projecting what they know on everything with a Matrix fandom cherry on top. And I said, of course, Joy Emoticon. In my wacky quote, this is something I'm complex enough to grok by listening and taking serious the careful thought and hard work of other like agents, end quote, theory of everything. We're all neurons in a larger consciousness. I get to decide what to do with this crazy gift of local cognitive agency that I find myself in. I can use it to be a useful tool of the greater consciousness, keeping the creative center grounded and in check by closing myself off to growth and wallowing in not knowing and telling the creative neurons, that's stupid, be quiet. Or I can be a creative neuron. Both are vital. One is just more fun. No, I said one is much more fun to be, I think. Joy Emoticon. I really think that. Who cares if you sound silly? At this point, Dr. Awesome chimes in, what if reality is just like most people touch and see? Then what? The whole mystical theory goes out the window. I said, I think that's how most of the animal kingdom would describe it. I think a gift and curse of the complexity that has evolved in this biological evolutionary complex cognitive agency generator that I'm writing in, I think is a beautiful gift and curse that humanity has, is we can maybe see it as more than that. I said, but I think that's how most of the animal kingdom would describe it. But both can be true. You can decide there's nothing more to it, or you can decide to try and understand what it is. And Dr. Awesome says, I think only one can be true. It is like it is, or it's all a conspiracy. Why? This thing everybody's got with conspiracy theory. Can't we just be allowed to think and share ideas and sometimes agree on ideas, even if most of the herd thinks they're wacky? Why does that have to be so tinfoil hat nutty? I don't find it to be. I said, I disagree. I like to think it is like it is for a purpose. Like there's a good reason for it to be and not just the nothing. And then I linked a GIF from Neverending Story. Life and the universe are so much cooler to be in when they are useful for something. Joy emoticon. So when I think, why run a thing like this? What would it be for? I think it would be incredibly useful for us to build a thing like this. Like, let's say we solve quantum computing, fusion. So we have unlimited power to fuel the thing. And we solve not just AGI, what I call human. I don't like the term artificial general intelligence. There's nothing. It's just intelligence. It's human engineered intelligence or consciousness, HEC. But super, because it's like when we get that working properly, it'll be like a compression of what we are. The substrate it runs in will be able to communicate with all of the other ones in real time at just ridiculous. So cool. So you have those things. And then you look at what's, I just came across, Lex Friedman just did this interview with a guy. I'll link it in the description. Fascinating talk on robots like that could assemble like robots, assemblers. And I think he talks about ribosomes and how when you look very closely at our biology, it's like people want to say, like my good friend, Mr. Big here will say, creationism's stupid. It's all wishful thinking. This was clearly an evolutionary process. You're ignoring all of the actual evidence I have. But then I'm like, then dig deeper. Look at how the cells in your body grow an eyeball. I mean, look really deeply. Go look at the cutting edge. Go look at Mike Levin's work on it. I don't understand. It's so far fucking above my head, my pay grade. I'm a study everything guy, master nothing guy. But if you go look at that work, it's quite literally intelligent design. And that's not some foolish religious wacko saying it. It's the head of, I can't remember. Mike Levin's titles are very impressive. I heard him introduced to do a talk recently that was just awesome. He's clearly well respected in the community of he's in. I will get his titles wrong and all that, but it's clearly like we cannot just introduce some chemicals in a cell in a certain way and get those cells to build an eyeball. And we're looking at the work they're doing. Holy shit! It's intelligent. This isn't magic. I don't want to get too distracted. So let's see here. Where was that? Where are you at, Lex? Lex spoke with Neil Gershenfeld on self-replicating robots, the future. I was really distracted. I was making dinner for my kiddo when I was watching this, and I'm going to rewatch it because it's just fascinating shit. When we have this tech and we have all the other ones I was talking about, why couldn't we spin up a basically some sort of shared state that a whole bunch of cognitive agents where we translate very well what we are, and then we push a physics engine in it that forces them to reconcile their existence in a like shared state that's simulated. Why couldn't it build something like us, you know? And think how fucking useful that'll be for us. You know, like if it can grow its own AI from within the quote unquote simulation we build for it by setting up a like shared state, it's like growing a damn, and because we can iterate it so quickly, you know, quantum computing, it happens fast. Parallel processes. And it will grow all of these cool, new, unique perspectives of something that's equivalent to our perfect expression of ourselves through human engineered consciousness. Fuck, that's going to be cool. That is so useful for us to try and build. And yeah, I mean, for me, it's just like connect the dots, you know, like go, instead of sitting on your pedestal of ignorance, go listen to all these people talk. This is coming fast. We're going to have the capability to do something like that. And ourselves. And also, if there's a way to communicate outside of this thing, I think that's the path, is to build that tech. Of course we're going to do it. So cool. So I said you could rapidly iterate on the natural biological evolutionary process and grow complex alien consciousness like a farmer grows wheat. Plant a seed that grows into ridiculously complex cognitive complexity. And Dr. Awesome says, or a spade could just be a spade. And then I responded, sure, you get to choose. Nobody gets to tell you. You pick. He responds, that's dumb. I said, I think it's awesome. Joy emoticon. And Dr. Awesome says, humans always try to put meaning on shit because it makes them feel better than trying to fathom that the universe may be chaos and random. I'm okay with that. I don't need an answer. You know, I was a proud atheist with that view up until about 42. It was like everybody else just couldn't deal with the chaos engine theory. Like they couldn't. I felt like if they were grasping at ways to understand this that was more than that, or kind of abstract away a deeper meaning for themselves, what this all is and how it functions, I thought it was because they were just kind of they weren't able to deal with going through life with no understanding and that being enough. And in looking at what all these fucking geniuses, all the work they've done, and this is academia. This is all of the people that are likely atheists. If you go look at all the work they're doing on all this stuff, it's impossible to look at this as if you go look at how you grew from one cell into a full body, it's impossible to look at it as just being an accident. That's just, it's not and I don't say that from a position of faith. I'm looking at all of the hard work that a lot of smarter people than me have done. And it's just true. If you sit down and listen to these people talk, it is just fucking true. So I find that to be awesome. Let's see. And Mr. Big chimes in, it's just a high-tech creation story. There's heaven, but it's a computer. There's a creator, but it's an alien intelligence. Heaven is just consensus, I think. I think we bounce in and out of it, and it's fleeting. It's much more useful for growth if we're mostly out of consensus. And critically, I'm okay being wrong about all this. What I think about this is fine. You know, I don't mean to say that how I make sense of this is how you should make sense of this, or my two buddies here. It's how I make sense of it. And that last bit is really important. You know, Mr. Big says, when mental gymnastics become an Olympic sport, you're getting a gold medal. Happy face. And I said, what happens when you decide thinking is the most fun thing to do? What happens when you decide thinking is the most fun thing to do? I guess it gets a bit complicated. Sweat smile. He responds, you spelled drinking wrong. And I responded with an LOL gif. Fuck, I wish I was funny like that. That dude's so funny. To anybody listening, I think you're just the coolest. And no promises on when there will be another one of these, but please say if you enjoy any of it, stay subscribed. Could be a day, could be a month. I'll be back when I feel like I have something useful to share. Thank you all so much.
Now it's coming around, you're feeling cut down and in the ground, and so we all come together. We making a sound, we sing. Look at all this love we found.